Hey everybody. How you doing? This is your this is your host, Chris Hasek-Watt. I'm having trouble getting the words out. We got 20 more minutes of this, so I better pick it up. This is your host, Chris Hasek-Watt. You are listening to the Love Means Nothing Tennis Podcast, and it has been a crazy week in the world of tennis. The Cincinnati Open, or the Southern and Western Open, is finito. And the finals on the men's side was pretty epic. Probably one of the best 1,000 finals in history. Probably the most up and down finals in history. And Novak says it's a match that he'll never forget. It's one of the most memorable matches he's ever played. We'll get into it. But first, we got some other stuff to cover. I'm just going to leave it out there. Wait a little bit, so you have to listen a little bit longer on this pod. I hope you want to listen and you're not just going to fast forward. Don't worry, we have no ads on this ad. It's straight content, no interruptions. Let's get into Coco Gauff. Okay, let's talk about the WTA, the women's side first. She ended up winning this tournament, the biggest win of her career. Okay, since bringing on Brad Gilbert, she has won Washington, got to the quarterfinals in Montreal, and has now won Cincinnati. Okay, so that change is obviously working out pretty well for her. I think he was brought on temporarily, but clearly with these type of results, she should bring him on full time or do whatever she's doing with him because it's working. This guy is the author of Winning Ugly. He knows how to win ugly. And that's exactly what a lot of women should integrate into their matches. Because just hitting the ball as hard as you can, works sometimes, but not all the time. And if you can craft a good game, you can change it up on the women's side, you can win a lot of matches. So he's probably worked on that, probably the mental game with her, maybe the forehand, because I know she was having some troubles with it. I didn't really watch much of her tennis, but clearly good things to come. She'll probably go into the U.S. Open, seeded maybe fourth, fifth, or sixth. And she'll probably be one of the favorites for sure going in. Well, not probably. She will be one of the favorites. After she won the match, okay, and I didn't know she was so religious. Okay, but this is a quote from her speech when accepting the trophy. She said, "This is unbelievable. I'd like to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I spent a lot of nights alone crying, trying to figure it out. I still have a lot to figure out, but I thank him for covering me." Okay, sure. I think it was probably more to do with Brad Gilbert than Jesus Christ on this one. I think Jesus Christ was there for her entire career. Now that she brought on Brad Gilbert, she has 2 wins and 1 quarterfinal in the last 3 weeks. So maybe it's more about the coaching, but who knows? Jesus Christ probably had a lot to do with it. And you know that okay. Coco Gauff is pretty good on the PR side. Okay. I think she gets a lot of lessons on the PR side when she's talking to people from Ohio, thanking her Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. That's a good move because I'm thinking that there's a lot of religious people around there. Okay. She also quotes famous celebrities in her acceptance speeches. She talked about getting up. I don't know. She basically talked. What was Cardi B? God, I almost forgot. That shows how old I am. I almost forgot her name. Cardi B has some song or some lyric that says "knock me down 9, get up 10 times," and then after Coco Gauff won her semifinal because she had lost to Swiatek the previous 7 times, she said something like "knock me down 7 times, get up 8." She quoted LeBron. She's basically trying to associate herself with these other celebrities and trying to through that association probably will come more sponsorships, etc. It's pretty calculated. To me, it's pretty obvious, but you know what I mean? Most people aren't as smart as I am and they don't see that and they eat that shit up. So it's going to work out in her favor. after Swiatek lost, or earlier in the tournament, I think Swiatek's having a hard time these days. Okay, I think the media is on her. I think on social media, she doesn't have a lot of fans, I would say. Maybe I'm kind of hard on her. Maybe she was talking to me. I don't know. But she said that, I'm reading it right now. She says, I wanted to encourage people on the internet to see the positive side of what we're doing, and something about just being nicer. She thinks everybody should be nicer to everyone else. So that is a great message to everyone out there. Be nice, okay? Because Iga Swiatek told you to. But I don't think she's going to do very well at the U.S. Open. I don't know. I just have a feeling she might lose early. Mentally, I don't think she's that strong right now. She has that like psychological coach that she travels with, like some therapist that she met that's like from Poland or something. Personally, I think it's a little weird. I think this person might be taking advantage of her. You know, like those personal, you know how like over COVID, like these like personal coaches, right? Or these growth coaches have popped up everywhere, and people are paying like $250, $300 an hour to these random people that have done nothing in their life. Their life is like a chaotic shitstorm, and then they claim to be some savant, is that the right word? Or expert on, you know, growth and happiness and success, etc. It's bullshit. Swiatek needs to lose this woman and just live probably a normal life, i.e., continue to win tennis matches, be grounded. And I guess it's not a normal life when you're number one women's tennis player in the world, but I mean, just like, don't have this person hanging over your shoulder telling you how to think every day. Okay, moving on. Let's talk a little bit about Mason, Ohio, where this tournament is being played. It looks okay. So first off, it's kind of weird that there is one of the biggest tournaments in the world being played in Mason, Ohio. I doubt anybody that listens to this podcast has ever been to Mason, ever been to Cincinnati, and maybe has never been to Ohio. Okay, the tournament schedule there, it's like played, these like major tournaments are played in places like Paris, Rome, Madrid, Barcelona, London, New York, Palm Springs, Palm Desert, Shanghai, wherever, okay? Like major international cities. And then you throw into the mix or the schedule Mason, Ohio. It's weird. It's at the Lindner Family Tennis Center. There's a long history, apparently, of this like this tournament or an associated tournament being in Cincinnati. It's like one of the longest standing tournaments since 1899. Okay, so there is some legacy there, but I doubt the players really love it, to be honest. I don't think they're going to be staying at any Ritz-Carltons around there. It's probably closer to a Holiday Inn, is my guess. And I don't know. It's weird. But the tournament was actually purchased, or the rights to the tournament, by a billionaire, Ben Navarro, who owns BMOC Capital. Okay, he bought the rights to this tournament, and it looks like they are going to move, okay, this tournament to Charlotte, North Carolina. He's building, or he's gotten approved, a tennis center. He's building it outside of Charlotte. It's like a 14,000 seat stadium. It's not under construction yet, so it'll probably take 3 or 4 years. But it sounds to me like this tournament will move. They're considering other options potentially. I guess this like stadium is just old. It can no longer, you know, hold such a large event. Maybe people just don't want to go there. I don't know, the fans. I doubt they attract, based on the fan base, you know, when you're watching on TV, it doesn't look like they get a lot of international travelers into there, okay? It looks like a bunch of guys, white, 95% white, 4% brown, 1% other is basically my read on it. All work as like kind of in like a blue collar industries. You know, some of these guys, you can tell they're kind of like the head honcho CEOs, but they like work for like tractor companies, or they like own like a gun shop. I don't know what it is in Ohio where people make money, but it's not in the creative arts. I can tell you that much. Okay. Not a lot of fashion trends going on at this tournament. But the fans are good. The fans are good. They're not great. The stadium didn't even look completely full for the men's finals. So it's not a great fan base, I would say, but it's not the worst at the same time. It actually might be the worst. I think it's probably the worst, and that's why they're moving the tournament. I just don't want to be mean, but it's the worst. For sure, it is the worst fan base in the entire world is in Mason, Ohio. They don't even know what tennis is in Mason, Ohio, okay? The only people that know about tennis in Mason, Ohio is JJ Wolf's family, okay? And his outside family, they are probably attending that tournament. Anyway, moving on. So that is about the tournament. Okay, let's talk about the men's draw. The crazy epic finals. I'm just pulling up the draw right now, so I need to talk a little bit slower. And let's just talk about, the path to the finals, and then we'll get into the finals. Okay, let's start with Alcaraz. So he got a bye in the first round because he's the first seed. He played Jordan Thompson in the second round, and he won in 3 sets. Okay, so you're thinking Alcaraz might not be playing that well because he should be beating Jordan Thompson in 2 sets. Anyway, got through that. Then he played in the round of 16 Tommy Paul. Tommy Paul, I guess he's a good matchup against Alcaraz because he beat him in Toronto. Alcaraz got his revenge. He beat him again in 3 sets. Okay, so another 3-setter. He had match point in the second set, couldn't close, went to 3. Mentally strong, obviously Alcaraz is, and took it. Quarterfinals, he played Max Purcell, who's a qualifier from Australia. Max Purcell's good, by the way. I remember when he played in the doubles finals of Australian Open against Kyrgios and Kokkinakis. He was a much better player than his partner, and I said, hey, this Purcell guy, this guy can seriously ball. I didn't know if he could do the same in singles, but obviously he's showing that he can. Anyway, he won the first set against Alcaraz. He was on fire, and then Alcaraz came back and won that in 3 sets. So another 3-setter. Then Alcaraz had to play Hurkacz in the semis. Hurkacz had match point in that in the second set, should have won the match. Alcaraz came back and won that in 3. So he spent a total time on court of just under 11 hours before going into the final against Joker. Meanwhile, Joker, his first round, he played Fokina. He beat him 6-4, and then Fokina had to retire. Okay. Then he played Monfils, and Monfils, by the way, just beat he beat de Minaur, and before that he beat Cam Norrie. By the way, I'm very glad that Cam Norrie is coming back to planet Earth. Okay. The fact that he was like top like 7 or 6 or 5 in the world never should have been. He's probably in reality, he's like a 20 to 25 player in the world. Okay, so Monfils beat him. He's playing well. Anyway, Djokovic destroyed Monfils, and he's 19-0 against Monfils, which is insane. The fact that Gael has never won a match against Joker. Okay, you think just like Gael with his athleticism, you think back in the day, maybe 11 years ago, 12 years ago, he would have had a good day. Djokovic was off one day, and he could beat him. Didn't happen. Hasn't happened. Never will happen. Anyway, then Djokovic played Fritz in the quarterfinals, beat him 6-love, 6-4. Apparently, Fritz said he was going to the match feeling better than ever. How'd that work out for him? And then Djokovic had a tough one against Zverev, who, by the way, is looking good. Watch out in the U.S. Open. He beat him 7-6, 7-5, still in straight. So he was on the court for less than a total of 5 hours going into the match. This is the match that everyone wanted to see. Number 1 seed against number 2, number 1 in the world against number 2 in the world. Obviously, it should be reversed because Djokovic couldn't play the U.S. Open last year. And if he did take away those points, Djokovic obviously is number 1 in the world. That's taken away nothing from Alcaraz. Anyway, I don't think I need to talk about the match in detail, okay, because everybody knows what happened. There was a crazy amount of ups and downs and momentum swings in this match. I think the first hour and a half of the match, the shadows played a major factor in the quality. Like the quality was the how do I say it? The quality in the first set and a half wasn't nearly as high in the second 2 hours of the match. Like the drama was still high because there were so many ups and downs. Djokovic looked like he had heat stroke and couldn't go on. Alcaraz, he was up one set and 4-2. Then he played a couple of really bad games and let Djokovic back into the match. So there was a lot of swings, but the overall quality wasn't that good because the shadows were a bitch. And if you're running this tournament as tournament director, you think in advance you'd know when the shadows are the worst, at what time of the day, and you'd schedule it for when they're not that bad. But they didn't do that. It would have frustrated the hell out of me if I was a player, but I'm not. And they managed to get through it anyway. When the shade went over the entire court, the match just got that much higher level and it got crazier. By the way, when there's so many shadows, it's even difficult to watch on TV because the exposure isn't right. The camera person, they have to expose it high or low depending on kind of like the lighting. And because there's such dramatic differences in lighting in the shaded areas versus the non-shaded areas, it's actually difficult to follow the ball. It's not just because I'm old. It was actually difficult to follow the ball. My wife said that too. And my wife's only 18 years old. She's not 18. Don't worry. My wife is not 18 years old. Okay. I'm not going to tell you exactly her age, but it's in the 30s. Okay. I'm not that kind of guy. Moving on. This is getting awkward. What kind of notes do I have? So quality of play, shadows. Yeah, mentioned that. Alcaraz's flexibility. The guy did the splits about 6 times in the match. It's insane. You think like in the background, the camera's going off of him and you see him doing the splits and you're thinking, okay, this guy's injured. He's not going to get up. Next point, he's completely fine. Djokovic, I have notes. Djokovic looking hot / wanted some type of food. Oh yeah, Djokovic was yelling at his team at one point in like the end of the first set, early in the second. He wanted like food, and they kept bringing out like mixes for his drinks, and he started like spazzing out on his team. Kind of entertaining. Fans in the crowd. I mentioned, okay, does not bring out celebs. That is for sure. Already talked about that. When Alcaraz started this match, his deuce side out wide serve was on fire. I've never seen him serve that big in my life. I wrote nothing cool about Mason, Ohio. I was totally on that hating on Mason, Ohio train when watching this match. Gerber Insurance, I mentioned the picture of the baby. They've got that weird picture of the baby, okay, on the court, and I couldn't stop looking at it. It was creeping me out. It gave me nightmares. First game of third, big missed opportunity. So I thought when Joker, he had a couple, I think, breakpoint opportunities in the first game, but this happened throughout the entire set. There were so many opportunities that were potentially missed, or the other player just like played a massive point. Joker actually was 1 for 13 in breakpoint chances. Okay, in the third set, which is nuts because Djokovic is typically throughout his career always been the best big point player in the world. You know what I mean? He kind of like clutches up, and he just basically he'll outplay you, he'll out rally you, he'll out everything on you in big points. But Alcaraz was the better big point player. At the end of the day, though, I would say that Djokovic looked old against Alcaraz. Alcaraz brought way more firepower throughout the match, but Joker is just Joker. He managed to get it done. It was an incredible match. After the match was finished, they both basically kind of collapsed. Like Alcaraz didn't physically collapse, but he started crying because he just like put out so much energy. Djokovic ripped off his shirt like he did back in the day, like a big boy, like the GOAT, but he wasn't wearing the cross around his neck on his necklace, which I was a little disappointed about. He didn't have the nanotechnology on his chest anymore. He was just like, He was just like bare chesting it like a boss. What did these guys say after? They basically had nothing but compliments. Djokovic said, "The feeling I have on court reminds me a bit of when I was facing Nadal when we were both at our prime of our careers. You feel like you're not going to get even 5 free points." Complimenting Alcaraz, it's true. This was Joker's 39th ATP 1000 win, which is a record, and it was his 95th singles title. Now he's only behind Connors and Federer. Djokovic said it was one of the toughest matches I've ever played in my life. Unbelievable from the beginning to the end. So much, so many ups and downs, incredible points, heat strokes coming back. Overall, one of the most exciting matches I've ever played. I work for this. Just that, we're talking a best of 3 set match, okay, in Ohio. We're not talking about a best of 5 Grand Slam. That is how crazy it was. It lasted 3 hours and 48 minutes. It was all over the place. It was absolutely nuts. Djokovic, what else is going on with this? I think that's basically it. Alcaraz also being emotional, but the guy's ultimate has so much class and he's so likable. Like, he was crying right on the bench, and then he was like, when he like removed the towel off his face, he would still like smile. He's just a very likable guy. He's so good for the game. We're basically spoiled as tennis fans from having Fed, Nadal, Joker. Now we have Alcaraz coming to save the day, basically. So I don't know what else to say about it. It was just a great match. Hopefully we get to see a repeat of that final in 3 weeks in the final of the US Open. The crowd is going to go insane. If I was Djokovic, by the way, for the early rounds, for every round, I would ask the tournament director for evening matches. He's just better when there's no potential, overheating or issues around the sun and whatever. Like in the Australian Open, he basically had every match of his was like a night match after the first round, and it showed, right? I think he likes playing under the lights, kind of like Federer did in the U.S. Open. So yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be really good. You know who will not be playing in the U.S. Open? Simona Halep. She pulled out of the draw. Her name was in the draw, I guess, as precaution or hoping, not precaution, but she put her name in hoping that there would be a judgment by now. But it's been crazy. I don't know what the fuck these guys are doing. Make a judgment. Either she's guilty for taking enhancements or not. Like, let this woman move on with her life. She's now ranked I don't know, 1,000 in the world or something like that. I saw it. It was something stupid. It was 1,160 in the world. Anyway, what else happened in the world of tennis? I'm watching the Becker documentary called Boom Boom. I've gotten through the first hour and a half. It's okay. I would, if you're a big tennis fan, I'd recommend it. If you're not a huge tennis fan, probably not worth watching. It's just starting to get into when things started going off in his life. I think he hit the bottle a little hard, to be honest. You can kind of see it on him now. His nose is all kind of fucked up. When alcoholics have, their nose is a little bit weird. So, he's been through a lot in his life, including jail time. I think he might be in jail right now, or he just got out. But that's kind of bullshit. Okay, it's not like he did anything too bad. He essentially was a resident of Monaco, as every freaking tennis player is, or some country where they're not paying taxes, but he spent too much time in Germany, and when you spend too many nights in the homeland, then you have to be paying taxes there, etc. And then he got a sentence of 3 years in jail. It was a little bit much for his crime. But the socialist people in Germany, okay, they haven't historically been socialist, but they don't like when a celebrity that they think is very rich, although it seems like he kind of lost all of his money, is getting some sort of advantage above them. They don't like that. So they went down hard on Mr. Becker. The PTPA, the Players Association, they added a few more players. I don't know if they're on the board or they basically just welcomed them to the association. They added Kim Clijsters, Mirza Sania, who's this like famous Indian tennis player. She was never that good. And the thing is, when you come from a country that has no good tennis players, even if you're mediocre, but you're like the best in that country and you like make, let's say, like the semifinals of a doubles Grand Slam, you're like the biggest celebrity in the country. It's kind of funny. And then Marcos Bagdatis, who is the man. He's also from like Cyprus, and he's probably the only athlete to ever come out of that country as well. So he's a big star there. What else is going on? Not too much. Victor Hovland, man, that guy's my new favorite golfer. He won over the weekend, the BMW Open. The guy is clutch as hell. I was reading a little bit about the founder of Red Bull. He was a bit of a recluse, which I was surprised about. He ended up passing away like half a year ago, as like he was worth like many billions of dollars. But I was expecting this guy to be like the most interesting man in the world. And like reading about him, he didn't even like to go out. Like he didn't really like to go out and meet new people and like social events. He thought it was a waste of time. It's pretty interesting. Maybe give it a read. Look into him. I forget his name right now. Anyway, I think that is it. A bit of a recap. A lot has been going on. I kind of just whizzed on through that. Talking about whiz when I'm making those noises. Remember Tsitsipas in his match in like the third round of Cincy? Like he thought there was a bee swarming him and he was like swatting it with his racket when in fact it was like someone in the crowd making buzzing noises going bzzz, and he act like, can you imagine if somebody's making that noise and you actually believe it enough to start swatting the air around you? Anyway, he complained to the umpire. I think he got the person kicked out. If you're ever watching a Tsitsipas match or any other match, do not make any buzzing noises because it really throws them off. They do not like it. So please do not do that. Anyway, I'm your host, Chris Hasek-Watt. You are listening to the Love Means Nothing Tennis Podcast. Check out my YouTube at Chris Hasek-Watt. This is my first video recording podcast. Follow me on Twitter, Chris Hasek-Watt, Instagram, comment, like the pod, do whatever you want to do. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.